Hello, today my debut EP is coming out and it's called Debut because for me it feels like this is the first time that I actually make the music that I really wanted to make. I've been playing the guitar since I was 3 years old, that means 27 years now, and I have been playing and composing every day for most of my life. But singing and making this music I didn't think was possible for me to do because I thought it was too difficult for me. I couldn't imagine how it would be. I couldn't really imagine me doing it. I couldn't imagine me sitting here and actually making a video about that I did it. But I think this is what you have to get through to actually do something that really amazes yourself. Today I'm gonna talk about what I learned from this experience, from doing so, and hopefully inspire you to do something or to give you some good tips and tricks. I often talk about that you should finish your music, and that finishing your music is like a really big term. Normally when I talk about finishing your songs, it's simply in the definition that you should finish it so you could bring it to a band and play it. You could rearrange and reproduce it, but the thing about just having written the whole melody, the whole lyrics and all the chords. But when I pressed upload for my 5 songs on this EP, I really learned that finishing is about releasing it. And it's not about that I give it to people, but it's more that I actually finish it. There's no going back now. And of course, there's always going back. I could delete it and make new versions, but for me, it only feels finished now. So to everybody who has like this big collections of songs they haven't published, go and publish them. It's very simple. At some point you will experience doubt at what you're doing. For me it was kind of every day, and especially in the ending when I was mixing it, I remember the last day I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna redo everything. And this is where it's important to know that this is how you work. When you get used to it, you start to only hear anything that's bad, even though it's not even bad. And you will simply just start to doubt anything. So have somebody that can tell you that everything is good and that everything is good. I'm so blessed to have good friends, and right before I was about to redo all of my mixing, I sent it to my very good friend and he was just like, this is good. And when he said so, I was like, how the fuck can he say that this is good? And then I re-listened to it and I was like, yeah, it maybe is good. So have somebody that can help you get through your doubts, and if you are doubting yourselves, then just keep working anyway instead of making it a part of what you do. It's not easy, but I think this is like a really, really, really great skill to acquire. Don't care about your doubt, just do. One thing that I really loved to do was that I saved everything in the cloud. So I used Google Drive to store all of my music. I'm working on 2 different computers, the computer in my studio and on my laptop. And I really love that I can sit in my studio with my really beefy computer, and that I can sit on the beach with my small MacBook Air and work. And instead of that, I have to carry around this external hard drive which I have to connect and need to make sure that it's the right versions and I have all the files and blah blah blah, and make backups. And so I used Google Drive to store all of my project files and audio files and everything. And that just meant that every time I saved, it was saved on all of my computers and it was backed up and everything, and it just made it so much easier. Because for me, accessibility is everything. If I have to connect an external drive to work from, then if I only want to work like 5-10 minutes, then it just becomes too much of a hassle to actually do it. And also working with an external drive is just not that sexy. Without, I can take my computer, run, and I can do everything without having to think about anything, and just making music should be easy. And for me, this was just a no-brainer, and try it out yourself. I tried to use iCloud, and it sometimes just deleted files without saying anything, and I really tried to figure out what it was, and I never figured it out. So I use Google Drive because that just works for me now. When mixing, the most important thing that I did to bring life into what I did was automation. You can automate everything. You can automate volumes, of course, panning, but effects and equalizers and everything. It's just like when you play in a band and you play with other band members, then you're like making space for each other, and you have to do the same as a mix engineer, and simply just playing around and experiencing, and it just makes everything more interesting and 3D and natural sounding somehow. And it's also my way of guiding the listener towards what I have done, to what I want the listener to listen to. So automation is like, it blows my mind every time I do it, but still I'm often so lazy that I have to really force myself to do it. But I've never tried to automate anything where I didn't really got like this feeling, because it simply just is amazing. It's the best mix tool I've ever tried out. I started with 20 to 30 songs, and I selected the 5 songs that I liked the most. And my process from there was simply to try to make them really figure out what they means to me and how I can make them how I can make it the most interesting for myself. So what I did was to try to make a lot of different versions, simply not being afraid of just doing and deleting, but just doing a lot, because from every style, from every tempo, from every orchestration I did, I learned so much. I started figuring out what was this song actually about and what is it capable of doing. If you asked me about this 5 years ago, I would be scared, because then I would be like, oh no, but how would I know what is the best version? But for me it was pretty simple, because for me it was the version that I just found more interesting. And I don't think that it's that difficult to actually feel. Of course, then you have to trust your guts, but this is the most important thing you can do ever. Believe in your guts, your feelings, and then you will get better at time. But from doing multiple versions, I really just had like this travel. And what I hope to give with this EP is that you can hear that I really tried a lot of things out, and that I went on a huge journey, even though all the songs are kind of tiny in some ways, but that I tried out as many options as possible, kind of, even though I maybe only scratched the surface. But for me it felt like I was really like trying everything out. And it has been such an amazing journey, because I have really gained and learned and experienced and explored, and I have learned so much about music, and it has been so much more fun to do, because I haven't been afraid of not being good enough. I've just been looking forward to getting more excited. Play your songs live. You don't necessarily have to do it in front of an audience, but for me, when I sit and play, I start to do naturally, because when I repeat something a lot of times, I get bored of it, and then I start to do something else without thinking about it. But this is a huge and incredible way to get inspired and to get new ideas, because when I do because I don't like what I do anymore, then it becomes really great somehow, instead of I do because I need to do something. And from simply performing my songs, I get to know them with my body and my fingers and my voice and everything. And it becomes so much more easy to work with. Also, what I learned from playing the songs was that it was a lot about the music was actually about the energy. And when I play them live, I play them in different tempos and with different energies. And I kind of figured out that, when I play them to a metronome and I only draw the notes and whatever, then it becomes very flat. So what I gained from playing my songs was that my performance was a big part of it. So I really tried to implement my performance, which meant that I had to play everything and really learn how to play it. And at first it was really irritating because I thought it was very difficult to learn to play, and I really felt like just finishing it and learning to play it and then to record it took some time. But the time that I spent at doing it, I gained so much knowledge and skills at playing my songs, and soon I'm going to play my songs live, and because I practiced them while I made them, I can actually kind of play them, which is just feels amazing actually. And playing songs is just another way to get a relationships to your songs, and I feel like in every way I can, I want to make relationships to my songs. So play all of your songs, and if they're too difficult, see it as an option to learn to play your instrument better by learning to play your songs. Because for me, my best motivation for learning an instrument is that I want to play my own songs. 5 minutes a day. I think one of my biggest frustration and the most difficult part about doing this was that I couldn't imagine what it would end like being, and imagine that, as I said in the beginning, that I would even sit here with a finished EP and I would sing and all of these things. It was so far out in the future that I couldn't imagine me doing it. So how do you invest everything in something that you can't imagine? My biggest trick was to do 5 minutes a day. So what I did was to make lists with things that I kind of knew would get me closer to my goal, even though I wasn't sure about what my goal was. But for example, practicing singing, I simply just made a list with my favorite songs that I really liked, and I started singing these songs to become a better singer. And I signed up for a singing teacher, and because I knew no matter what kind of music I wanted to make, for me to sing would be a help. Another thing I knew that would help me no matter what was to simply write some songs and finish them. And my biggest weakness was that I was terrified of writing lyrics, because I was overthinking everything. But I also knew that no matter what kind of music or what I wanted to do, it had to contain lyrics, English lyrics. So what I did was to try to write 5-minute lyrics every day, because I knew that it would help me getting closer to my goal as doing an EP album, whatever it was, no matter what it was I was gonna do. So from working on songs just 5 minutes a day, it would help me to get closer to my goal as doing this, and it would help me figure out all the missing links that I didn't know of. And yes, it's full of missing links, and I think that this is what makes this a really exciting journey, because if you already know how it feels to get somewhere, it's not that exciting. I think a lot of people think that they kind of have to know what they're gonna do, because if they don't know, then everything feels like a big failure. But nobody knows what they are doing, and if they do know, then by 99% it's gonna be boring as hell, because what makes music exciting is that the artist is excited while they're making the music. And how can you be excited about doing something that you already know how it's gonna turn out to be? If you know how it's gonna turn out to be, then it's because you have done it before, and if you have done it before, then it's not really a amazing experience, I think, at least. But 5 minutes a day with tasks that helps you to get closer to figuring out what it is you want to do, and simply do. Expose yourself. Figure out why it's so difficult for you to get started, why it's embarrassing, or what are you fearing? One of my friends wrote me a month ago, and he was like, "Hey Johan, do you want to play together at the 7th?" And I was like, "Idiot, why are you asking like this? Blah blah blah. No, for sure not. Blah blah. Idiot." Because my whole system was trying to keep me safe from going and performing my songs for the first time as a singer, as my new project. And I was terrified. I am terrified, and I will probably make a video about it. But it was the same when I realized that I had to do this. I told my friends, I told people, because for me, when I told somebody, then I also told myself, hey, yeah, Johan, you're gonna do it. And the more I told, more difficult it became to not do it. So for me, it was a way to kick myself out on the deep water and like making the people around me help me to stay out there until I learned to swim. Just because things feel scary doesn't mean that it is scary. Making music is the least scary thing in this whole universe. Exposing yourself to the possibility of failing in music is not scary. It's like the moment where you learn the most, and it's really amazing if you don't fear it. So really expose yourself. Do what feels unnatural. Do what feels scary. If it's a way to get closer to your goal, do it. I know that there is a week until the 7th, and I'm scared like hell, but what can happen is one of two things. I can like fail, and it can be so tough, but then I will walk off the stage and I would know what I have to work with. I know what I have to become better at. I know what I want to be better at. And instead of just fearing not being good enough, I now have the tools to get to the place where I want to be. And if I haven't done it before, I can only imagine a lot of things, and maybe I can prepare for some of the things, but I will promise you that I can't prepare for most of them because I don't really know what it's about. And it can also be a success. And if it is, then I know that I need to explore even more and that I should go and make a lot of more concerts, which I should do no matter what. So expose yourself. It's not that dangerous. And for me, the biggest thing that has happened to me while doing this is that I have started believing more in myself, and that I have started doing more things that I'm really scared of in all aspects of life. And it has made me a happier human being. And this is why I'm trying to be as honest as possible, because this is a major change for me. If you play your music for your friends or other people, if you get suggestions to things that you should try out in your music, if you don't really think that is how it should be, or maybe it's like, oh, I didn't imagine this way, do it anyway. Because when we don't think of it, when we don't think that it fits, then it's only our imagination that is like, when you say this, I imagine it in a way that I don't think is good. But when you do it, then maybe it will happen in another way that would actually fit your music. And for me, I think some of my biggest moments when I was out in the middle of nowhere and I didn't know how to get out of here. And then my friend said, oh, try to do this. And I was like, no, I don't want to try to do this. Because what you're suggesting is that I should delete my favorite part of the song. Are you crazy? And then in a weak moment, I tried it anyway. And I was like, fuck, this was absolutely the right thing to do. So even though the suggestion seems foolish and against everything that you believe in yourself, just try it out, because maybe something really truly amazing would happen. Be careful when you're asking for feedback. I think that making music is about figuring out what you want. And when I feel like asking people, it's because I don't know what I want myself. In these moments I'm like, can I please just make somebody answer my question? And I know that the only right thing to do is to work. Try out different options, versions, everything until you get the knowledge that you need. It's simply about gaining the experience, gaining the knowledge from trying out so many different solutions, so that at some point you will get to oh, I know the answer. When I ask for feedback, it's because I know what I think myself, but I would like to listen to my music through others' ears. Or maybe it's because I will like some ideas that I would never get myself. And in that way, feedback is amazing, but feedback should never help you solve a problem, because these problems are what makes your music sound like you. These problems are what makes your music interesting at listening to. So ask for feedback when you want to get inspired, when you want to do stuff that you didn't think of or ever would think of. And when you meet a problem, something that you don't know how to solve, then make multiple versions. Simply work it out until you find the solution yourself. For me, this has been one of the biggest findings, because there are no big problems that you can't solve yourself. It's only about spending the time. All the time that you invested into solving this problem is what I, as a listener, gets to feel. If you like this video, then please hit the thumbs up button and consider to subscribe to my channel. And if you like, then go to Spotify and listen to my new EP. And if you want to listen to my music, then you can go to Spotify or all other streaming services and search for Johan Granberg. If you like what you hear, then please press the follow artist button.